Welcome everybody to episode 6 of Voices of Enoch, the only Outriders podcast you should be listening to because it's the only one available. Today we have a special guest today, the one and only NickTew will be helping bring his thoughts into the latest dev news. And as always, we have my man Capo here, Capo167, Mr. Maffeine, bigdaddyshyt, and yours truly, Plato Scuff. We're going to be bringing you the recent news that happened today with the weapon mods buff that they pushed. A topic for discussion, which I think is a really good one, regarding the weapon mods meta, focusing on Moaning Winds and Fortress. And then finishing up with a little note that they mentioned regarding timer-based endgame as well. And if we're not over, or if we manage our time, we'll open it up for some Q&A as well. Oh, Maglam, thank you for the 420 biddies. Appreciate you. With that being said, let's go and get started. We can go ahead and discuss the weapon mods buff because, once again, we did not receive a patch this week. They are still working on it, and it's not ready to be released. But they were able to bring us these weapon mod buffs on the back end. And I was going to say maybe Big Daddy talk about this a little bit, just because I know you and Palm were kind of messing around with it earlier.
Oh, well, yeah, at face value, the buffs seem pretty significant, but actually... what it is a 37. Like, for example, the anomaly surge buff is actually 37%, not 137. But yeah, overall, these are buffs. These are mods that are underused because they don't do a lot of damage, and the buffs were not significant enough to change anything there. Sadly.
Yeah, I know some people will still try to mess around with it, and Palm was messing around with Claymore Torn a little bit, and we'll get onto this actually next year in our next topic. But really, the weapon meta of Fortress, Moaning Winds, as far as like the AP builds goes, is going to be discussed here. But it's kind of hard to shy away from that because it is so good. But ultimately, like Big Daddy said, these 5 buffs, we'll take them because they're buffs, but they're not going to inherently change the current gameplay experience. It's not gonna cause any meta shifts or anything. Palm, thank you for the 345 bits. Appreciate you. But that being said, we can go ahead and talk about the main discussion, which is going to be the weapon mod meta. So I'm just going to read this word for word for people that aren't following along on the webpage. So you may notice that the weapon mods above fall within a very particular category of mods, and they're talking about the 5 mods that got buffed today, which was Winter's Blast, Ultimate Anomaly Surge, Claymore Torrent, Ultimate Storm Whip, and String of Gauss. Most of them are single target or cleave mods, meaning that their damage potential is limited to a single enemy or a small group of linked enemies. For the purposes of this discussion, we'll refer to them as ST mods. This contrasts with uncapped AoE mods such as Moaning Winds, which deal damage to an unlimited number of enemies in their respective AoE radius. So they're talking about the current mod meta in Outriders, and it's good that PCF is aware of the current mod meta, or just the current meta in general, right? Because I think that's very important for the game. But they're mostly discussing here the 3 pillars, and we'll get into that with Pillar A here shortly. The general AoE damage mods, which is Pillar A. Pillar B is Moaning Winds and the quick cycling meta. And then Pillar C is Fortress, which is the weapon mod that comes on Death Shield. So today's buffs are their first steps towards addressing the aspects of the mod meta, which they see as unhealthy for the development fun of the varied build in Outriders, and they're kind of spot on there. Having Fortress and Moaning Winds, as we'll discuss later, kind of limits your build choices. We'll be making changes in the future aimed at disrupting the meta, which I'm sure everybody's happy to hear as well. So, starting with Pillar A, which is the general AoE damage mods. I could go ahead and read through this, but I think we can go at it from point to point. We can start with Capo here. Capo, do you want to go over Pillar A? Just kind of read it over and then discuss your thoughts, and then we'll open it a bit more up for discussion.
Yeah, I can. You want the first one, right? Got it.
Yeah, Pillar A, the general AoE damage mods.
Yeah.
Yep.
All right, so the general AoE damage mod, according to our player data and community observation, there is currently an over-reliance on AoE damage mods, which is most likely the result of the way most enemies encounters in expeditions are structured. Players usually face hordes of enemies against whom such AoE mods are the most efficient method of playing. So, real quick, just layman's term and boomer term, however you guys want to break it down, but That's just basically saying that they're starting to notice that more AoE mods are being utilized because of the waves of enemies that you face. All right. And as we go on, you're gonna start to notice that they want to start implementing or help implement to where other players can start utilizing other mods besides, i.e., bone shrapnel, moaning winds. 1 versus 1 or smaller mobs group encounters are rare enough for AoE mods to still do enough DPS to overcome these encounters, even though ST mods would likely be more effective here.
Just to be clear, like
Yeah.
I feel like we need to say this. ST mods, by ST mods, they mean single target.
Yes. Storm Whip is an excellent example here, as its previous damage potential strongly underperformed, meaning few players chose this mod over others, better alternatives.
Well, yeah, I mean, it comes down to the bone shrapnel and
Mhm.
storm whip type of argument, right? Is like
Right.
you gain more value out of doing AoE damage because it's just the way the maps work.
Right, just the way you got all these enemies running at you at one time. While originally developing the OG Outriders mod experience, we had envisioned that players would ensure that both of their weapons had fundamentally different mods. These would allow them to deal with and tackle different scenarios and encounters using a variety of weapons and methods. And then at the end, they end with this brings us to the next 2 pillars, B and C. We believe and think that you'll agree that the current meta that involves B and C has fundamentally stifled the needs to run anything else. There is little incentive to experiment with other mods when these will always be more powerful, which is correct. You don't have a reason. Well, you don't want to run anything else, especially if you can't complete these CTs. You're you're constantly going to be obligated to run Fortress or Mooning Winds, so that way you'll be able to basically complete or accomplish the expeditions.
Is this whole post only in reference to Fortress and Mooning Winds? I don't have the actual post on me.
You can go in Plato's chat.
No, I can link it for Nick here.
Yeah.
Actually, link. I'll have
Send
to.
him
I
the
mean, Nick, I'll have to link it in the chat because if I move off my Discord on my
Yeah, go
PC,
ahead,
it's gonna
go
screw up Capo's. Yeah, it's gonna screw up Capo's thing. But yeah, they're mostly discussing Fortress and Moaning Winds for the most part. For this post here that they're aware.
But yeah,
Right.
to bring attention to a little note here, which is that they envision that people would use different mods on different weapons, right? Like
Right.
you wouldn't stack triple the same mods. And that's something that I said towards the start of the game. Like just one of my ideas about Morning Winds, which is it should, or just mods in general, like Shadow Comet, they should have a global cooldown, right? It just feels kind of strange, right? It limits, like they're saying, it limits kind of the gameplay choices when you can just stack the best thing over and over 3 times, At least that's my thoughts.
I find it so weird that there's this whole discussion about the weapon mods, but it's entirely dismissive of like anomaly power build, or sorry, not anomaly power, like firepower builds with twisted rounds or whatever. Because like the whole, I really like the idea of like using different weapon mods for different situations and having 2 weapons to swap between. Like, okay, this is a single target weapon, and I swap to it, but that only happens if it's like a firepower setup. But if you're doing a firepower setup, then you have to use twisted rounds, or what is the
Lighted.
technical one even called? Yeah,
Lighted
that
rounds.
literally disallows you to swap weapons, and it seems that they're just entirely dismissing that, and it's specifically talking about AP builds, which is like only. Do people even do AP builds for Techno and Trickster really? Like
Trickster, yeah, but not.
Yeah, exactly. Trickster, yes.
they exist, but it's only like really pervasive when it comes to Devastator and Pyro, right?
Yeah, I would say the majority is Devastator and Pyro. Because I don't see much anomaly tricksters, but most anomaly tricksters would still be using Moaning Winds. So any AP class in general. But yeah, I do like Nick's point is they didn't like really touch on firepower builds, but I'm just hopeful that it'll happen.
Well, it's just weird to me that like the whole point of it is
someday.
addressing weapon mod imbalance, but ignoring like how many people actually are playing AP builds that are playing Techno or Trickster. Like the majority of those people are going to be playing Firepower.
Well, sure, but I think that's just not right. That's not the current discussion. Basically, they're focusing on this aspect currently.
Yeah, I think they will get to the weapon mods, but I don't think they wanted to maybe go overboard. But I would like to know what their viewpoints are on weapon mods too. I mean, sorry, firepower weapon mods at some point, because Dark Sacrifice in its own right, you just don't take anything else really.
Yeah, it
with
just seems
firepower build.
dismissive to have not have mentioned that, I guess, is my point.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, no, that's fair. But I mean, they're probably kind of happy, honestly. I'm gonna just be real. They're probably happy with the balance of the firepower mods because they're like, oh, Dark Sack, you lose 50% out. Killing Spree, you need to stack it. Boom. Gameplay, interaction, sold.
That is true. That's true.
Yeah. I'm kind of curious to whether at this point of the game are people just actually getting away from the firepower builds and now they're venturing off into AP builds, and that's possibly what brought this up to give them something different. Maybe I'm tired of running around with blighted rounds consistently and just it's boring now, right? We all know that techno is boring. Like, I mean, for me, it's kind of boring, right? You just run around shooting, and there's really no fun. And maybe people have transitioned to now they're doing APs and AP, but it requires you to have Fortress and Moaning Winds to be effective.
But also something they completely didn't mention is the elite killing power of Moaning Winds.
I was gonna actually mention that when we got to the Moaning Winds, but yeah, we can discuss it a little bit if you want to hear, or we can just go to Pillar B, honestly, because I think
yeah. Let's go. Let's
okay,
segue.
You want to start it off then? You want to segue off to Pillar B then, Big Daddy, for Moaning Winds?
Sure. So Moaning Winds is one of the most dominant mods in use, and it makes sense because, like Cap was saying, AP builds are probably more in use currently. And I agree with that idea, the general idea. But yeah, so like they're saying, basically the quick cycling meta, which is you empty your guns and you can kind of bypass the 8-second cooldown on Moaning Winds, right? By cycling through different weapons and proccing it on those weapons. And yeah, so they're basically speaking about that whole system and how they feel like it's kind of unintended gameplay. Yeah, so it's vastly outperforming its intended potential and inviting a rather unorthodox playstyle. So yeah, exactly. They didn't really intend for this quick cycling gameplay to be a thing. And that's kind of brings it back to my, global cooldown discussion or point earlier, which is they feel like a single Moaning Winds is not a problem that much. It's more the fact that you can triple cycle him really for that, that massive elite killing power and DPS. And for sure, Moaning Winds is not a simple answer because if you do something major to Moaning Winds, you'll be killing a lot of the avenues that people use to, play their AP builds. So you need to be careful for sure about the steps they take in, nerfing in general, the quick cycling or Moaning Winds itself.
Even if the quick cycling wasn't like intended gameplay, I kind of find it satisfying. It feels satisfying, right? But that's just my own take with someone that doesn't play AP builds too much.
I think hopefully this is just what I think, but hopefully it's more of a where they do take and they make it a universal cooldown where once you use it once, no matter what, and you try to use it again in the next weapon, it doesn't work. You still have to wait the 8 seconds. But I hope that if they do something like that, they do have to understand that there's going to be other things that you will have to buff to come in place or to replace what Moaning Winds used to do. Because honestly, if you make it a universal buff, I don't see a Devastator AP being able to complete. Well, it might be, but it's going to be tough.
I mean, the problem with Moaning Winds fundamentally is that classes like Dev AP are reliant on it in order to actually do things. So they need to address the fundamental problem that is Dev AP is reliant on it because it cannot succeed otherwise.
Mm-hmm.
Well, yeah, like I've said earlier, I feel like one of the biggest problems of AP builds and why Moaning Winds is so strong for AP builds is that elite killing power, that burst on elites that just allows you to, actually kill them and not miserably die to them while you whittle them down. So I think, that's
Yeah.
something they really need to.
It's
I mean,
it's a mod literally with no downsides. Like it
from a
does everything
numbers
just good.
from a numbers standpoint, it doesn't make any sense because it's uncapped AoE in a radius around you, yet it will still do more damage than one single storm whip at like T3, right?
Yeah.
So like, I don't understand how that's balanced in any sense.
Well, also just the way the damage multiplication works. Like people will say the cooldown balances it, but ultimately it doesn't because base damage is just king in this game with the multiplication.
And the fact that again you can't quick cycle it, so it's an 8-second cooldown, but within 2 seconds you can pop all 3 moaning winds, and at that time, by the time you need it again, well, all 3 are back up because
Well, yeah, it's realistically like a tree, around tree, 2 3-second cooldown, since you have tree.
Right.
I don't even think introducing a GCD to it is like significantly effective because you could just, like what I did when I was running AP, is I had a Shadow Comet and then a Moaning Winds.
Well, yeah,
Right.
but that's
That
a
is
good
still
thing.
incredibly effective. Yeah, I just think they should just insert a GCD and it's not even like hindering or hamstringing Dev AP that much. But fundamentally, the problem still exists.
Yeah.
That Dev AP is a little reliant on it, overly reliant on it, and needs help elsewhere.
Right. So, and I think that's at that moment that, yeah, you do look at that and you say, all right, this is what we're gonna do, but make sure that the next plan after that is to make sure that any other things that are Dev AP or even Pyro AP, you have to buff something or give them another option. Buff something else to give them another option, so that way, they'll be able to complete the expeditions.
Well,
'Cause
yeah,
if
I
not,
think I think the easiest and simplest answer to their overall fortress and moaning winds question is making AP builds stronger. Ultimately, I think that's the answer.
They can also take a look at class trees, class trees as well, to kind of maybe make up for it. I don't know. I mean, they did it for Trickster in a negative way because of the week 1 nerf, but like I can see similar buffs being applied to class tree as well in the future. But maybe that can be
Some of the class trees are hilariously bad.
I have a question. So if you're PCF and you're looking for other options to replace Moaning Winds and enhance these AP playstyles, are you looking at a change that brings up a similar like close range playstyle that Moaning Winds provides, or what are you doing if you're PCF? What mods are you like using to fill that void that Moaning Winds sits in right at the moment?
Well, my biggest problem with the AP builds currently, right, is that you do have avenues for elite killing, but they're not good enough, right? Like you consider phaser beam on Pyro, and to do that massive elite damage, you need to stack up all your debuffs on them and have full carry stacks, or impale on Devastator, which does not a lot of damage and has other problems as well. And that's just some examples. I just think AP builds need that ability to kill elites faster that any firepower build just has, and you just cannot compare a firepower build and an AP build without Moaning Winds, and just that ability to get through the game. So I think this is a pretty easy way. Just make AP and certain skills that are single target more focused on single target more stronger. That's be my focus.
In a Pyro case, you would buff the heat wave or
Phaser beam. I'd buff
Phaser beam.
Phaser beam, probably
Okay.
feed the
Yeah.
flames, like trying to make the single target actually useful on AP builds.
Yeah, because single target wise, those AP builds are not good at all.
I would
So, yeah,
personally
that's
like to
what
see
I-
Phaser Beam have a shorter cast CD, but that's just me.
That's
Just
where
a
I'd look if I
topic,
was
yeah.
PCF, single target APB.
I did find this one bit interesting at the end though. They said overall, Moaning Winds is a big topic and deserves its own discussion thread. So like they're really wanting to really like go at Moaning Winds here, and which we'll open in the future along with historical context about how Moaning Winds came to be, and I find that very like I actually want that now. because like when you say something like historic context about how Moaning Winds came to be, I don't know, maybe that'll like open up some dev insight, or maybe they can do a series out of it too with like Outriders dev insights, like why we did certain things X, Y, and Z. I know some other games do it, but I'll be looking forward to that because I think that's very nice to just have information on. Moving to Pillar C, because I think we've discussed Moaning Winds in enough detail. Pillar C is Fortress. So Pillar C, we're talking about another mod which is Fortress, which is on the Death Shield. And
you want to give it to Maffeine?
Yeah, I was going to give it to Maffeine. So Maffeine, go ahead and start this off, and we'll go ahead and discuss Fortress in more detail afterwards.
All right, so Pillar C, Fortress. The third and by far most problematic pillar is the Fortress mod. The way Fortress currently works usually provides a passive and consistent 43% damage increase to damage the player inflicts, and that is that is one thing that I notice a lot in the time that I play Pyro is the damage difference in my overheats when I'm like cycling and then I forget that I have my pistol out, like versus having my death shield or having the Anemoy equipped. Like that damage difference is insane.
And it's free.
Yeah, exactly. In essence, take your normal damage and apply the calculation of 1.43 to it. That's it. That's the mod. No gameplay loop, kill or damage event, or special situation required. And I mean, like that's insane. Versus like Dark Sack, like the damage buff is great, but you're losing HP constantly for that.
Well, yeah, but even then, right? Dark Sack is weapon damage. It's kind of crazy thing.
Yeah.
A multiplicative. It's kind of, you can't compare it to anything else in the game, which is kind of strange.
In the current DPS-oriented endgame, all players will naturally be trying to maximize what damage they are able to output. So the existence of Fortress in its current form essentially blocks a mod slot, which is very true. Like, literally, why use anything else?
Yeah, because nothing else is equal in any way.
Not even close.
It definitely requires some severe buffing to other mods. What do you do with Fortress? Or are you for PCF? Are you nerfing it, or are you buffing other stuff? What's the move there?
So go ahead, Nick.
You want my hot take?
Take your
My-
hot take,
Please.
yes, sir.
My take is delete Fortress, delete Dark Sack, and delete Killing Spree. And actually, like a lot of the weapon mods that are in the game are pretty inventive and pretty, I don't know, there's a lot of ingenuity that came into creating them, but they're just incredibly undertuned. And you just never use them over flat DPS percent increase. Just delete the other, just delete them. There's no gameplay in it. It's not fun using Dark Sack. It's fun because I see a big number, but the other mods are infinitely more interesting.
And you do bring up a good point, because like PCF have, like, they keep mentioning, like, especially with Fortress, right? That's it. That's the mod. No gameplay loop, kill damage event, or special situation. So they're kind of big on that. Well, at least in this blog post, it kind of feels like that's like their intention with the game, right? You try to maximize like every single mod and kind of.
Well, specifically with Fortress, right?
Yeah.
Like they feel like Fortress specifically adds nothing to it.
Yeah, I mean,
I think the context. I think the context of this entire post is specifically relating to AP, right? So they're just again being dismissive of Killing Spree and Dark Sack, but those fundamentally work the exact same way. In essence, take your damage and apply 75% with Dark Sack or whatever. Like, it's the same thing. I don't really think that.
Pretty much.
I don't think the health draining thing is all that impactful because it's really slow in small increments, and you heal that anyway.
Yeah. That's one thing that I think a lot of players don't realize is like I don't see a negative to Dark Sack, but when you're playing Technomancer, or even when you're playing Trickster, right? Because you just have that natural healing. It's a lot better with Techno. You just shoot something and you just, okay, well, Dark Sack did nothing there. You got the free damage. So because this game is so fast paced where you're always shooting, there's no negative impact that Dark Sack has because you're always going to be healing off of it. And then with Trickster, it's a little bit more rough because you need that on kill. But like even so, your Death Shield gives you passive healing received when you shoot something. So, in that way.
But I'd say it's a hot take, but it's not that hot because let's be real. Killing Spree and Dark Sack, like you said, in Fortress, they're limited in gameplay, like loop. You just put them on and they increase your damage, and that's it.
They're never
It
gonna
is.
do it, but I think that's what they need to do.
Yeah, I would say, I mean, I'm not disagreeing with what was being said, but I would take a look at maybe for um maybe the casual players, right? Dark sacrifice is probably a big thing for them. Maybe they're not willing, right? And I kind of bring this game up a lot, but like Division, a lot of people, even till now, they won't wear glass cannon. Why? Because to them, they feel like the risk is not worth the reward. So I truly agree that, hey, Doc Sack is like giving me all this damage and I don't have to do anything for it because I know how to survive for it. But how about some of these individuals that don't know how to survive?
I mean, wouldn't they
Survive
just
with it.
learn by just passively playing the game, though?
You
Well, yeah,
would
but
think,
That's what I
you can
you would
guess.
also
think
just
so,
slap on killing spree, which is basically
right?
equal. Like,
I mean, I don't think that's like relevant to the discussion because you could say the same thing about moaning winds. Like, oh, a casual might not weapon cycle properly.
I mean, as a casual with weapons, I'm horrible.
I just, I kind of, I'm just trying to see both sides of the fence because maybe, you might have those individuals that are like, no, I'm never using Dark Sacrifice. Um,
If they're never
but
going to use it in the first place, then who cares if you take it away?
yeah, that's a good point.
well, no, but you're right.
The,
Also, that they will never take it away because
the
no.
problem
Yeah,
is the problem isn't that they exist in the first place. Like, I think they're a poor design decision. Darksack not as much, but the rest of them are kind of boring. But the problem is how predominant they are and that you're forced to use it. And if you're not using it, you're trolling. If you're making a techno build and you're using T3 Storm Whip and Anomaly Surge, you're trolling. And you're just nowhere near somebody that uses Darksack because it's 75% flat damage.
yeah, and it's just insane. Like, just how much
Oh
damage
yeah,
a
that
singular
kind of
mod provides.
yeah, that kind of brings it back to why the weapon mods buff are insignificant. It's because they need to
Yep.
be so strong to make up for the like losing an actually useful mod. Like they need to do so much damage, or have a crazy AOE CC or whatever, and it's just not the case.
Yeah,
I
if we
think the
weren't clear
actual
before.
fix is
Oh, sorry,
to
Nick, go ahead.
redesign them because people would be mad if they just straight up deleted it, right? I think they have to redesign it, but in a way that doesn't like completely destroy its identity, but also gives you an opportunity to use other things. But at the same time, I don't know.
Yeah, it's
They
gonna
have to
be a
make
hard
like
task
wide
for sure.
sweeping changes.
Yeah, but I mean, I could see a balance change where they nerf Dark Sack, Killing Spree, and Fortress, and just bring up, guns and AP.
I mean, I'm entirely all for deleting them from the game entirely. I kind of missed that like first playthrough and like using just discovering the game and using like what's that mod that's like Warmind Cells from Destiny, like Singularity or whatever it's called when you shoot that ball and it just
Phantom
explodes.
Singularity.
Yeah, it's from
Yeah.
the Marrow, I think.
I remember thinking that was like the coolest shit. So
Oh, scrap grenade.
yeah, and
Just shoot and reload, hurry up and reload, so you can keep getting scrap grenade to shoot out.
yeah,
No,
I
he's
would love
talking
to use
about
stuff like that all the
Singularity.
time.
Yeah.
But yeah, like you're right, and that's kind of the next point, right? Is the
Mhm.
amount of mods that are so inventive and just not use at all.
It's kind of funny because I had the experience of like
I don't know about
when
clip roller. Sorry, fucking clip roller is just bad.
well, it's not like a T1 mod though.
It's like a T2 mod.
So isn't it a weapon mod as well?
Is it a weapon mod? Yes.
There has to be trash dog shit mods so that you can appreciate the good ones,
Yeah,
But like
true.
when I was playing the beta and I got legendaries and then there was like that massive dump of all the legendaries that were in the game and I was like reading all the mods. I was like, holy shit, this one looks really cool. That one's really sick. And then what actually ended up happening is in the beta I got Killing Spree and I used that all the way until I finished ET15 on my Trickster and never took it off once, never thought about it like, oh, maybe I should use this other mod. Nope. Killing Spree the entire time. And it's like the weapon mods are such a cool system and just completely ruined just by the dominance of what was Killing Spree and now is Fortress and Darksack. It's kind of just depressing.
I do like Big Daddy's point though. I think Big Daddy made this point that they're just going to need to tune it in some way, and I think that's the discussion they're probably having internally right now. Is they're aware of these mods, but they just don't know like what route they're going to take with them, right? Because like Nick said, if you remove it, like they're never going to do it because it's going to cause that like, okay, well, why did you do that? And the community is going to be an outrage kind of thing. But I think they have to get the retuning, just not just right, but like they have to get the retuning pretty decent here.
Well, yeah, I'm
if
just
they
saying,
plan on
right?
doing something
If
with it.
these mods were just slightly, well, maybe significantly less useful, then that would make other mods in comparison more useful. And I'm not saying to nerf right the builds. I'm just saying you bring down the mods, you bring up the builds in other ways, right? And that way you're kind of balancing in two ways.
Yeah, I don't think like from a gameplay design perspective, you shouldn't gain that much power from the weapon mods because, for example, Darksack is infinitely more valuable than T3 Stormwhip. It shouldn't like completely determine whether you're capable of golding or not. So generally, I think it's better to just delete those or, destroy how dominant they are and then just bring up everything else at the same time. Like, I think it's weird to focus on weapon mod balancing when gun balancing is horrendous. And like that is way more fundamental to the game than I think the mods are. Like, how long have people only been using burst rifles on Techno? And how bad are the other guns relative? Like,
Since the
I
game's lifespan.
I enjoyed leveling up using an LMG, but then the second I hit max level my trick shot, I was like, oh, I have to use a shotgun, or I'm not gonna get anywhere.
Oh yeah, attack AR, yeah.
Or attack AR if you're Techno. Yeah, it's like I think
Every other gun just seems. I mean, it's some are viable, like some are viable with some builds, but at the end of the day, like, what are the point of having snipers in this game? Like Jordan just mentioned it, right? Like, none of the snipers do anything in this game. Like, there's just
Man,
no
isn't
point
Techno
in running.
supposed to
Like,
be a
no
sniper?
one runs snipers in this game at all. You could argue
Right.
some people like to learn like to run the LMGs, the assault rifles, whatever. But like, no one runs the snipers. Like, it's just
No one runs a rifle at all. Any like a rifle or a sniper rifle at all.
Well, yeah, but you got to
Sure,
think
maybe.
also, the guns are, not that great to use. But yeah, it's also a balance thing for sure. Because like, if the guns are worse to use, then they should have more damage to like as a balancing effect. And that's just not the case. Like, guns will have a ton of mag size, but do no damage, or short mag size and do basically the same damage as attack AR, and you're just sitting there wondering, like, what's going on.
this game does not have like its gameplay doesn't lend itself to using a sniper where you have to hard scope.
Well, even then, you could make a case for a sniper if the damage to back it
Sure,
up.
I'm not disagreeing with you. I think they should buff the fuck out of them so that they
Oh yeah, same.
actually do something. But I just think like the gameplay is so janky, especially when like the whole point of the game is fast-paced gameplay.
Yeah, I think the maps are too small for some snipers too. They're not like super open either. Maybe Scorchland's kind of like an exception, but most maps are so enclosed where like the advantage a sniper would have just immediately gets not as advantageous, I guess. Like trying to use a
Look at those drapes!
I mean, you're also on a timer. You're just limited if you're using a sniper, just one shot headshotting everything very slowly, meticulously going through things. Like,
I think for how fast paced the maps are and like close quarters and a lot of the spaces, it's kind of sucks not being able to properly use double guns and SMGs. Like, I'd love to use SMGs in a lot of those maps. That'd be very fun.
Jesus, SMGs, I forgot the game had them.
And I've talked to Capo how I want double guns buffed, but the thing that he says, yep,
Amber Vault.
Amber Vault, killing spree Amber Vault,
That's it. Now
Stack with
that would be
Darksack.
meta. That's it. Now that would be meta.
delete killing spree.
Yeah. No, absolutely. That's so. I mean, yeah.
Well, yeah, that's
Removing
kind of
those
part,
mods.
right? That's the kind of part of the whole
Yeah.
balance discussion we're having, right? Is that you could buff double guns if killing spree got nerfed.
I just think if they had some type of negative effect and not just saying, hey, I'm gonna take away 50% of your health like Dark Sacrifice does, there was a negative effect, right? Meaning, I don't know, every time you kill, you lose 10% health. I'm just throwing some crazy nonsense out there, but
Oh no,
they
I'm
don't
thinking more like a number nerf, honestly.
yeah, no, I mean, but there isn't any, and if you're running around with 75% more weapon damage, I mean, shit, everything is gonna die, and it's gonna die fast.
It's not Kiss Curse enough. I like the idea of Kiss Curse, but that is just, in my opinion, a not good implementation, especially with how slow it ticks you down.
Yeah.
If you actually like could kill yourself with it, like if you what you were saying, for example, each time you kill somebody, it chunks your health, and you have the potential to kill yourself. That's kind of cool, and it lends itself to some gameplay where, like, I don't know, somebody that's good at using it isn't going to kill themselves, and there's actual risk reward involved. But
Right.
it would still be a little bit too powerful with its current 75% number.
And maybe not even have like the drain limit on it if we're, can even go there. Like, why stop at 50%? Just drain it all the way to 1 HP.
Because it's constant, so you'll just die and you don't have anything to do about it. No playability.
I mean, like with how you're shooting, I think it might work out. I don't know. I don't know anything about that. So
No, there's like downtime in between gunfights, right? So
true.
There's nothing you can do. Sometimes people need to text someone mid-combat, and their dark sacrifice just kills them.
That would be great to see, though. Not gonna lie.
Maybe something like while in combat, right? You're constantly just consistently losing HP, and you have to shoot people in order to keep it up. And then once you're out of combat, that's it. It stops.
Well, that's exactly how Darkseid works.
So
I think it's a little boring if they're going to do a risk reward kiss curse type thing. I think it should be a little more inventive, but I'd like to see more of that. I think they need to do a lot of new mods as well and just get like completely crazy with it.
I was gonna say I guess they have to be wary of, like, if they want to introduce new mods, it's gonna be tricky with the current state of the current mods and how they interact, especially off host. So I think introducing new mods, like, I would love it, but I don't think realistically it will happen. I don't know.
Oh yeah, no, I mean,
probably
yeah.
not.
I wouldn't hope too much on that. Yeah.
Outriders 2 for that.
I mean, you never know.
What do I even do there, man? The entire ground erupts in my face.
Moving on.
Yeah, we can move on to 1 second.
Tell me
Uke sub, so it's doing its thing.
That is my fault. Please. I had no control over the ground blowing up because I'm trickster.
Oh, there's one last point.
Bring in variants of legendaries with alternative attributes and locked mods to the loot pool.
1 second. All right. So final point in Pillar C. By not combining Fortress with your chosen primary mod. Or wait, did I already read that?
I think I read that. Yeah, you're chilling. You're chilling.
Oh, okay. So by not combining Fortress, your chosen primary, you might as well be sacrificing DPS, which is a philosophical question we're not comfortable with you needing to face. It's kind of a strange sentence. We want you to have a free choice of multiple different combinations without feeling that you're missing out because you didn't choose Fortress, which is a fair point. You should have options, and that's truthfully what's going to add to more replayability and more enjoyment as a whole, instead of just the same meta combo.
Also, it brings an interesting point, which is they don't want people to feel forced to take the best thing, which I think it's something that people need to keep in mind, which is the meta kind of is not only people like to say meta players, but the meta is also the kind of the most efficient and fun way to play, some people would say. And yeah, I just agree with that. That idea that philosophically they don't feel comfortable forcing people to either you choose Fortress and you're strong, or you don't play Fortress and you're weak. Yeah,
it sets up for like this next section like perfectly, because it starts to talk about the timer-based endgame and.
No,
Plato, you got this.
Oh yeah, I was gonna let you handle it, Matt, because I know this is gonna be your topic. But yeah, I got this. Okay, yeah. So, on this Kappa, you have something to say.
You can ever guest cover the last part.
Sure, we can never guest cover the last part. Nick can definitely cover the last part.
Huh?
Hell yeah.
What am I reading?
The very last one where it says we also continue to be very aware that a timer-based endgame. Yeah, that.
Dude, I feel like I'm in class and my teacher's telling me to read the history.
I'm sorry. Hey, play Big Daddy, all right? Don't look at me.
Oh, yo, you're the host. You should be fucking telling him to do that. Okay.
I should. But listen. Nick also just wanted to chill, so I was also respecting that as well, Big Daddy. So just
Oh, that's fair. But I just wanted to, share the love, have everybody
yeah,
participate.
share the love. Nick, go for it. It's your podcast now.
Okay, I'm taking over. We also continue to be very aware that a timer-based endgame is part of the problem in that it forces a DPS-oriented build rather than a survival or just pure fun build. These are the current challenges that we believe the Outriders weapon mod meta is facing today. Today's buffs are only the first steps to remedying the situation, and we are starting with a partial look at Pillar A, we'll discuss Pillars B and C, and the best ways to tackle them in future. Note that we are also working on changes to certain underutilized legendary armor sets. However, as these changes will also require code work, we'll talk about them more closer to their release.
So I did want to tackle on the we continue to be very aware of the timer based endgame part, because my feelings on this are like, I don't think it's the timers that are the problem, right? I think it's just a symptom of having the timers there that like weaker builds or not meta builds suffer, because you are required to hit gold, to optimize your loot, etc. I don't think like, and they mentioned here like rather than survival, just a pure fun build, right? And I get to this point a lot. Like you can still have fun playing, and I think I mentioned this last week too. You can still have fun playing like off meta builds, but just do them after you farmed for like do it at least after you have one character that can at least farm for some of the items you'll need, to even make those builds fun. Because ultimately at the end of the day, you're gonna need the mods to make like a fun build. But like if you want to have like a fun time in this game, you still can, and just ignore the timer, right? Like say you just want to mess around in Scorchlands and have like a 30+ minute run, go and have fun, right? But I don't think like saying like timers is like the biggest issue for people not being able to have fun builds. I don't think you can just like say it's the timer's fault. But that's just my take.
Oh yeah, no, I agree completely.
I don't think it's fun just not killing things quickly.
That me too, same.
Yeah, I don't think the timers are an issue at all, because what are you doing? Okay, you remove the timer, and if it takes you, I don't know, if it takes you 10 minutes to get through Coliseum, it's still gonna take you 10 minutes with the timer there or without the timer. I think just the fact that people see a timer there, they feel rush. You know what I mean? But the timer, it doesn't do anything, because it doesn't matter if you finish it in 2 minutes or you finish it at whatever it takes for that expedition to give you gold. You still get gold, so you could still do it. So I don't see why so many people complain about the timer.
Well, yeah, I think ultimately, it's like it's an excuse, kind of. I don't want to say an excuse, but that's the best way I could put it. That basically, if the timer wasn't there, then the real problems would come out, right? And people will start talking about the balancing and etc. But since the timer is there, it's an easy reason to say that the game is bad in some way because of the timer. But
right,
like we've been saying, I think ultimately it's more of an overall game thing than just the timer.
Right, and along with the 100% legendary increase, I mean, even if you get silver, you're still gonna get legendary drops. Are you gonna get probably 4 or whatever the case may be? Probably not, but you're gonna get a legendary drop. So I don't know. I don't know what would be the issue with the timers, unless you're a speedrunner, and then at that moment, then yeah, all right.
I don't know. I mean, the context I say it is specifically relating to everybody being forced to use a damage-oriented build, but they haven't set up the class trees in a way where you actually feel good playing a hybrid build or whatever a fun build means. They just fundamentally aren't powerful enough.
Mm-hmm.
Well, yeah, but that's the point that Kappa was making, which is the rewards ultimately are easy to get. You don't need to be the best in the game with the best build to get gold on a lot of these maps. It's kind of free, honestly.
Yeah, and I think that's a lot of sorry, Big Laddie, sorry.
No, but like Scorchlands, it's a perfect example of, if you want the rewards, go get them. They're easily accessible. But if you just want to have fun, you can go to another map.
Oh yeah, Nick definitely DC'd. He did sound a little roboty earlier, so maybe his internet went out. Yeah, sorry, Cap. I'm gonna leave it there in case he comes back, so I don't have to mess with it.
Okay.
Yeah,
I'm falling.
But yeah, sorry. Finish your point, Big Daddy. That's my bad.
Oh, I don't know, but my point ultimately is that, right? I don't think saying that the rewards being locked behind the timer is really that, true or like relevant, because of maps like Scorchlands which have a 22-minute goal timer, which you could get by with pretty bad builds. So yeah, that's my thoughts.
That's a point I did want to make. Is I think a lot of the idea of the timer is like because people try to go to Boomtown, where it has one of the shortest goal timer windows, or maps like Camp Plant, or like Frontline and Paxian and stuff like all those hard maps. But there's maps that have very generous goal timers. Like you mentioned, Scorchlands being the most generous of them all. Coliseum, probably one of the easier maps to run, right? It doesn't feel like you're getting rushed in Coliseum if you feel like you're getting rushed by the timer. But there are other options that players can choose, like certain maps that they can farm, in order to be ready to get gold on the other more difficult maps. That's definitely what I did when I was first starting out with the with Outriders. Is I definitely just farmed the easy maps and then just kept it there.
Yeah. Real quick, I see Master Roshi, fellow DZ fan. What's up? Love your name. I understand what you're saying right there, but I can tell you right now that it doesn't matter. As long as you get gold, whether it's your fastest or your slowest time, that time doesn't affect your drop rate at all.
Oh yeah, Master Roshi. That is definitely. Hold on. That is definitely. I got the perfect emote for this. That's definitely a tinfoil theory, because here's this right here. Here's my spreadsheet, Master Roshi. I don't know if you've seen this, but this is a spreadsheet that I accumulated, and most of these golds weren't the fastest golds, right? Because it was when the carry meta was thriving, and I was still learning the maps and everything. But you can see that like it doesn't have the timers on there, but I guarantee you most of those maps were like either 60 to 70% on the timer for the gold versus like speed running them in like 2 minutes. But I that does not affect drop rates at all. Yeah. that's just with the spreadsheet facts that I have and what I noticed running nearly those 2,000 expeditions. And Nick is back, my man.
Can I go back
That
to
would be
slouching
cool if
now?
it did.
Yeah, but it's just RNG. It's just RNG, Master Roshi. It's just it's how RNG is sometimes.
So it looks like they are focusing on Pillar A first, like they mentioned, and then they'll get to Pillar B and C. So for all the Fortress and Moaning Winds lover full metal in the chat, you're gonna be I don't think there's gonna be immediate upcoming changes, because those are two mods that are fundamental to the game at the moment in its state, and something they have to be very careful with. So it's not something that they're gonna be rushing at all. They're gonna start with what they mentioned, which was Pillar A. And they're going to be focusing on just the general AoE damage mods, and I think just bringing more single target damage mods up to spec. So
No
Moaning Winds buff?
No, Palm. No. All right.
More like Moaning Winds nerf on Moaning Winds nerf is what's gonna happen.
So, quick section.
I mean, just to be clear, right? There's not only are they speaking about the global cooldown on Moaning Winds, well, that's just an idea. They're not speaking about it. Sorry. There's the idea about the global cooldown on Moaning Winds, but there's also the fix, which makes Moaning Winds do more damage off foes, which is supposedly a bug. So if they fix that and they put the global cooldown, that's two different nerfs to Moaning Winds. So I do think that will have some effect.
Hey guys, let's go ahead and move down to one of the public channels, because it looks like because Nick got DC'd and he's on his phone, he's not able to talk in this one. So let's see if we'll have better luck in the Blaze channel or something. So I'll just move us all there.
Yeah.
Capo, does this mean you're gonna have to restart your
My camera?
Yeah.
That's fine.
Full Metal says player connectivity should be Pillar A.
Oh my god.
Yeah, no, full
Hopefully
metal.
that works, Nick.
You gotta love him.
Hello?
Hey,
Hello?
hey,
Yeah, there you
welcome
are,
back.
my man.
Great timing.
So,
Yeah.
rip internet. Is it Comcast? Let me just ask.
No, it's Cox and it never breaks. Hey, guess what?
Ah.
It just fixed itself on my computer.
Oh, awesome. See you in a bit.
Wait, let me see if that lasts.
Oh, it's funny.
Oh man.
I hate my life.
But just
Alright.
so to go back to the timer thing and the DPS thing, like to say that the timer is forcing a DPS build feels kind of wrong because I'd argue that just the skill trees and like the way the builds work forces you towards the DPS build because
And
what
the
are you
mods
gonna
in
do?
general.
Oh yeah, what are you gonna do otherwise? Like you're gonna heal people, they're gonna die. Right? If you're not killing stuff, the people you heal, they're gonna die. And it's like there's just no avenues, no meaningful avenues for supports in the game. So saying that the timer is forcing a DPS build is just wrong, I think.
The whole point of the game is a DPS build. It's like saying everyone plays a DPS build in Destiny. Like, yeah, no shit. That's the whole game.
I gotta kill shit to win. I mean, I don't know. We can move on to section 2.
Oh yeah, so I don't know how much there is to talk about this part here, but there are current challenges that we've been Outriders. Oh, I just mentioned it, that they're going to be focusing on Pillar 8. Full Metal, sarcastically or not, he mentioned multiplayer connectivity should be Pillar 8. And we are kind of early right now, so do you guys want to actually discuss that a little bit? The multiplayer connectivity being prioritized a bit more just for gameplay
That's
experience.
huge.
Because here's the thing, I'm sure
that's
PCF
huge.
knows, but like the desync is very real. Just in game with players, and also just weapons getting desynced as well, like especially the weapon cycling of Moaning Winds.
Well,
Which-
yeah, like Toxic Lead, Moaning Winds damage being different between host and off host.
Yeah, but that's all fair. It's all very fair. But ultimately, from what I've heard, it seems that they're having a trouble in general. Figuring out these bugs and these off-host interactions. So that's the reason they're not speaking about it, because they don't know. They don't know the fix. They're not sure what's happening because they're testing. It's not showing up as reliably as our gameplay basically. So that's the reason why they haven't spoken about it yet. And ultimately, they won't speak
it's
about
a little
it.
speculative, I would say, but
No, it's not. It's not though, because you literally said earlier that off-host bugs are hard to replicate on their testing.
Oh, that's right. That's right. That's right.
You
I
literally
don't know
said
what
that.
I don't know what testing they're doing if they can't replicate it. It's literally just desync.
Oh no, I mean I agree completely, and that's what I said at the time as well, which is, aren't you guys doing real world testing? But apparently they are, and they're still having trouble. So, that's my point. Ultimately, is that's why they're not talking about it, because they don't know, they haven't fixed it, and they don't know how to fix it.
I mean, hopefully they're taking a serious look into it. Like actually having people, like, maybe not work on it full time, but like it's a concern that's high on their to fix list, because a lot of this game is the multiplayer experience, right? With crossplay especially, and just to be able to have that consistent crossplay where you're not forced to run certain things like Toxic Lead and Trick Up the Sleeve just to be able to get ammo back when you're playing off us. Just like stuff like that could be fine tuned, and hopefully, like, for me personally, I just hope that they have.
Well, yeah. Well, ultimately, it seems like they wanna fix those things one at a time. Like people talk about fixing the multiplayer in general, but from what we've seen, it seems they're more interested in fixing interactions one at a time with the P2P and the multiplayer. So yeah.
Hopefully it gets there. I mean, I'd love for that. They lastly mention here that they're still working on changes to certain underutilized legendary armor sets, and we did cover this in the podcast before this too. However, as these changes also require code work, we'll talk about more of them closer to their release. So I'm excited. Like that's my take on it. Nick, I know we didn't get your take on it, but do you have any thoughts
Cannonball.
about underutilized legendary armor sets aside from memeing Cannonball and how just ridiculous it is?
I mean, yeah, Cannonball sucks, but I don't know. I think generally speaking, the legendary sets were a pretty big letdown for me, and I think there should be more incentive to use them. Even just, I don't think just buffing the underutilized ones is enough. I think they need a general buff to incentivize you to use them over purples.
Well, I think just the wording that's strange because let's be real, underutilized means every single one except 3 basically. So
Yeah, that too.
so I think they're being general when they say that. I think.
Yeah, there's no
mean-
reason. Each class has that one legendary set that you have to use.
There are certain outliers. There are certain legendary sets that are completely worthless relative to the other ones. There are some that are like,
Yeah.
they're dog shit, but they're usable. But there's some that are just like, you can never equip that and ever do anything with it.
Yeah, valid point there.
So they could be referring to that one. There's one for Techno that's like really, really bad. Is it Plague Sour? I forget which one it is, but there's one that's just,
Damage
like,
reduction?
basically nothing.
Yeah, the damage reduction one is it's Plague Sours.
Yeah, it's like, what even is that? The survival build setup? Like, just get that shit out of here.
Well, I mean, you know exactly what it is. You just said it, right? It's got close range damage on it. It's got damage reduction. It's a brawler techno build. It's utterly useless.
I would love to see a
bad.
brawler techno build be a thing in this game. Like, let's go.
Get up in
Go
there,
in there,
huh?
use your melee, man.
Close and personal.
Yeah, I mean, I see the idea. I think that's like a kind of my problem with the game in general. It's like you see these items and you see these mods and these kill tree nodes, and you see the idea behind them. Like you understand the synergy they had in mind, but then you use them, and it's not there. The synergy is not there. The skill damage is not there. The weapon damage is not there, and you're just
feels
left.
like it feels like they theory crafted and tried everything at like CT5 and never went above that, and everything just like worked at that point, but not really. It feels like it's just a lack of play testing and like execution on a lot of those things.
No, I can see that, because that's a point I wanted to make it with the legendary sets too. Is like, when is it optimal to run those sets, right? Like, was the intention to run them like climbing expeditions to help players out, before you kind of just scrap them away? Like, other games have those kind of weapons, right? They have like your mid-tier items that you just use to kind of like get through like a section of the game. But that being said, right, the Plague Sower set, maybe damage reduction would be helpful in lower CTs or something like that when you're just starting out. But like, realistically, are you going to get the Plague Sower skull to drop? No, you know what I mean. So
yeah, when I was first climbing the CTs, I like legendaries didn't happen. I think the first
At
I
all.
got was like CT7 or something like that.
Right. Yeah. The first.
They also
couple ones, you
mentioned
don't get any.
in a long patch that they had restrictions on certain legendaries to actually drop unless you were like, it was like CT13. It's like average level 48. So like,
Yeah.
All right, moving on to our second topic.
So our second topic here, we're done with the dev news here, guys. But I think it was, hold on, Pablo. He said, didn't they promise a fix for shots not counting? I know it's not the viewer questions yet, but since we're on this page, he's talking about the ongoing list of currently tracked issues, where I believe I read it here, but they're working on.
It's in the bottom. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's in the bottom. Let me see if I can find it. Or can you go through it, Capo? Because my brain can't see it right now.
Yeah, no worries. So, it's something that's on their list where, let me pull it up here. Certain enemies, no, not that one. Certain mods not working properly, in particular when you're a client. Where is it?
I could have sworn. I know exactly what he's talking about. Here, I'll say which one.
Yeah.
Oh, no. It's in the patch news. Okay, troll. We got troll.
There we go. Yeah.
It's in the patch news where they're looking at fixing a bug where certain times enemies don't take damage. But I don't think that's overall the issue with that one, Pablo. I think that's separate. Pretty sure. There it is. Fix a bug that could cause clients to shoot to sometimes deal no actual damage to enemies. So I guess I wasn't going crazy when I was dealing 0 damage sometimes.
Exactly.
Yeah. But that'll be a nice one to get fixed. But that being said, let's go ahead and move on from the dev news to something I wanted to talk about, like a little small segment, like 10 to 15 minutes. Boz brought up this idea in the last podcast where, we just kind of go over like some, questions that newer users have in the game. when they're climbing up. And I think dedicating like 10 to 15 minutes to the podcast is actually a good idea for this. So I have one picked up. I put it in our notes here. It's just a question that I ran across, and Boz also sent my way because, I think it fits at least what some people may struggle with at least playing Technomancer. But they asked a question: Are any viable techno builds that don't rely on the Borealis set? They have their full question here, so I'll just go ahead and read it real quick. They say, picked this game up a couple of months ago, and in the past week I finally unlocked CT15 Expeditions. They can complete maybe about 20% of the time, but never quick enough to get gold, usually silver. They currently run top 3 Blighted Rounds build with Turret and Cold Snap, but they can't get the Borealis set to drop, so they're asking, is there any other meaningful build? They're currently using the Damascus's offering with Claymore Torrent and Legendary Minefield, as they believe it's the only viable gun to keep up their Blighted Rounds, even with having, on-kill mod as well as an extra mag, they still run out of bullets at times. So they're asking, not sure how to move forward, as the last couple of days they haven't made any progress. I know a few days isn't much to those who play a lot, which is the hardcore players. But he or she doesn't have enough time in the day to play as hardcore as us, and wants to know if there's any other possible options that they can go towards when starting off as a Technomancer.
Find an assault rifle, turn it into the tactical variant, and you don't have any problems anymore.
There you go.
Well, yeah, I mean, let's be real.
A little bit more.
No, but let's be real. A lot of that question comes down to knowing the game, right? He's running Damascus offering, Claymore Torrent, Legendary Minefield, which are 2 on-it mods, right? Which will KS you and make you lose Blighted more often.
Yeah.
So straight away, you see the disconnect, in the synergy in this build. So
that's kind of wanted to dive into too, because new players don't know this, right? Or especially new players that play the game very sporadically, and not putting in the amount of hours that we put into it. It's going to take them a lot longer to figure XYZ out, right? So I think they did the right thing. Sorry, Kappa, go ahead.
No, at this point it's just all right, you worry about the Borealis set, but we just recently had Borealis, right? We've recently just have been able to use it correctly. And before that, it was an all purple build. I just think if he's asking this question and he's saying that he's utilizing the Damascus offering with the Claymore and the Minefield, I would ask him a question and be like, what mods are you using on your gear? Because if he's using this kind of weapon, I can only imagine what mods he's utilizing in his whole entourage. Because, I mean, it's pretty simple to just see, just like Nick said, you just go get a AR tactical variant, go in there and have at it, and everything goes away. But then he has a Damascus, and if I'm not mistaken, the Damascus is an LMG with over 100 rounds. So if he's losing Blighted, then it's really not the build's issue. He's not hitting his shots.
Oh, no. It is a build issue.
Because
the MLG will do less damage per shot, which will be harder to hit your kill bag. And also Claymore Torrent and Minefield has a chance to, steal you, basically.
Yeah.
Getting, stealing your ammo. But I think, what it comes down to ultimately is if he wants to keep progressing, he needs to do that extra step and do some research, That's really what it comes down to.
And I think that's a good thing that he went to Reddit, right? Because I'm sure there were people helpful enough to point the user in the right direction, and glad that he reached out and went on a platform to ask that question. And I'm just going to input, you can also check out my budget techno build, !techno.
Well, yeah, that's exactly what I was segueing into, right?
Thanks, Big Daddy.
Go watch Plato's video on the budget techno build, and that'll give you a great blueprint on what a build looks like and what mods actually help your build, and what mods you don't even need to look at for your build.
Thank you, Ubi.
Yeah, I don't know.
Well, no, but I just think ultimately a lot of these questions comes down to you need to do your own research a bit. You need to take that extra step to go a bit further, and that's just how the game is ultimately.
Yeah, they could have done that. The whole point they're writing the question is because they just want an answer. They don't want.
Yeah, I know, but you link the video to them, right? And boom, that's it.
Yeah.
That's my point, basically.
I mean, what I did, as a new player is, we can, because our special guest is here. I literally went on YouTube and I said, because I was playing Trickster, Nick, and you know how hard Trickster is in the beginning, especially when you have no idea what the fuck is going on in the game. I literally went to Nick's channel. I was like, okay, how do I make Trickster work? And then he started explaining how mods work and everything, and that's when I just started really getting into it, actually trying to put a build together and not just kind of running around with what I thought looked cool. Because I kind of hit that cap with Trickster where I was just I just don't know where to go next. So, thank you, Nick, my man.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think there's not much more to say than what we said there. I think that was a great little question to ask, and the user got the answer that they needed, and hopefully they can use that as a blueprint, like Big Daddy said.
Yeah, Borealis doesn't matter unless you're trying to do absolute top tier stuff, but don't focus on it.
True. Yeah, it's just about if you get Borealis, cool, but you definitely don't need it.
Absolutely.
But also, the question does bring a great point about the general balance of the game, right?
Yeah, it does actually. Thank you, Big Daddy.
Wow. What's the question about the general balance?
No, but I mean, right, the fact that a new player is asking this question brings a great point, which is that you need that extra step to succeed in this game, right? There isn't that easily accessible and way to succeed for most casual players, right? If you go down Metal Tree, you're shooting yourself in the foot. If you
I don't think there should be an easy way to succeed. Fuck them.
Well, no, that's not exactly what I mean. That's not exactly what I mean. But what I do mean is that there should be more avenues to succeed with.
Sure.
And that shows a great, that shows that that's not the case in this game, because that dude's having a hard ass time.
Very Cap, you're gonna say something?
No, I'm just fuck him.
That's hilarious. Okay, moving on. There was another question here, but I'm gonna get off the text and answer one and just ask this one question that I think somebody asked, and I think it's a good question it's a simple one to address. And is it worth returning to the game? I know Nick did a quick little stream back to the game, but is it worth returning to the game as a player who played the game and left the game because of X, Y, and Z? Do you think it's worth, this is an open question to everybody, Mav, Capo, Big Daddy, Nick, all of you guys, is it worth returning to the game in its current state?
I would say it depends when you quit playing, to be honest, and why you quit. If you quit because you couldn't get legendaries, then try again,
Right. Truly agree with that.
If you're anticipating anything new, no. If you quit because of other reasons that could be remedied by now, then play the game and see if you have fun.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's probably the best advice, which is, we've had a lot of fun with the game, so it probably depends how much you played it. Ultimately, if you quit early in your gameplay time, then I'd say the game did fix a good amount of things. Mm-hmm. It's in a better state than it was previously, so give it another shot maybe. But yeah, if you quit for XY reason, being more end game content or multiplayer connectivity, limiting your ability to play with players, those things were not addressed as much.
Yeah, you guys basically said it. I'm not gonna beat a dead horse.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that's pretty much that segment, and I think we kept it to a good amount of time. And honestly, we're on par here for a pretty good time podcast. But so we've discussed everything we want to discuss today, guys. However, we are at the Q&A section with the chat, and I know Pablo had one that he mentioned using the channel point redemption. If anybody else has a question that they'd like to ask myself, Capo, Big Daddy, Maffeine, or our special guest NickTew, please feel free to either utilize the podcast viewer questions or just write something in the chat right now if you guys have a question for us. But this was when we were discussing the whole timers. Pablo asked, the order of the timers in this game is wrong. You get Boomtown and Chempland first and Scorchlands at the end. So he just means when you're cycling through the expedition tier list, you kind of get the harder maps to gold first, versus the easier maps to gold once you've gone ahead and completed and unlocked it, using the drop pod resources.
Yeah, sure, but you could argue, right, that the harder maps at the start are easier since you do them on lower cities, and the maps that are easier to gold are unlocked once you climb, which kind of makes sense to me.
Yeah, I'm not entirely understanding his point because I feel like I had the exact opposite experience.
Oh yeah, Nick?
Can you reiterate what he said?
Oh yeah, he said the orders of the timers in this game is wrong. You get Boomtown and Chempland first and Scorchlines at the end. This is when we were talking about the timer discussion.
What does he mean? Yeah, what does he mean the order?
Oh, so
Well,
when you first play the
that
game,
you
the
get
early
things, yeah.
CTs. Yeah. Sorry, Big Daddy, go ahead.
Oh yeah, I was just gonna see what you were gonna say, which is you unlock Boomtown and Chempland at the start, but you unlock Scorchlands at CD12.
So he's just saying based on when you unlock them. Yeah, I mean Boomtown's only hard when you're forced to gold it like later on.
Yeah, no, that's my point.
Yeah, like the timer is a joke in the early CTs.
Yeah, like you only get the easy maps to gold when it's actually hard in the higher cities.
Yeah. Does that make sense, Pablo? Because when you're running Boomtown and Chempland, right? You're running them at CTs like what, 3, 4, 5, 6s, something like that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Versus when you get Scorchlines at CT12, right? So So what they're basically, it's easier to gold Scorchlands, but you unlock it. I guess it doesn't matter when you unlock those easier gold maps because you're gonna climb your way there anyways. Because Boomtown and Chempland aren't that scary in the early CTs because you're playing them at CT 3, 4, 5. Jordan asks, "Are we all speedrunners?" in this chat, Jordan, it is just myself and Big Daddy here, and Capo also dabbled in the speed running before he stopped. So yeah, Capo was a speedrunner, and even Nick was a speedrunner.
Yeah, Nick too.
And even Maffeine is a speedrunner. Okay, so we're all speedrunners. But I was thinking
put some respect on my previous world records.
Hey, I would ask Jordan, what's your follow-on question?
Yeah, what's your follow-up question, Jordan?
Because we've all have done speed runs, we've all have dabbled in it, but we understand the players that don't dabble in it, and we understand what would be beneficial to you guys also. So we don't. I mean, I'm going to speak for myself. I can't or I won't take the elitist mindset to give advice, whether it be to you or to PSF. I would have to do it with an open mind to saying, hey, you know what? There's people out there that can't do what we can do. So how do we keep the game enjoyable for them also?
Oh yeah, no, to be fair, the only reason we're speedrunning is because that's what we enjoy doing in the game. Yeah. But we've all experienced, leveling, making builds, leveling your characters. So we do know what that experience is and what we would like to change in that experience.
Right.
It's not because we're speedrunning that we forgot everything else we've experienced before.
Yeah, the first 300 hours, the game was rough, man.
Imagine starting as a Devastator. Imagine that's your first class, Devastator. Yeah, that was me. That was Capo.
Hey, mine was Trickster, and you know what? I wouldn't say it was just as hard, but man, it was rough.
Yeah.
I mean, we've all been there, right? Every single one of us here that is in this podcast right now. We've all been there in the early beginnings of this game. We know how hard this game is, especially those of us that played with the old drop rates. Oof, let me tell you. Ugake Cal? What was that?
3 hours for 300 hours before a Death Shield drop?
Yeah.
With the Devastator? Yeah.
All right, we got a new viewer asking us a question. NickTew asks, how shiny is Capo's head?
Capo, would you like to show all the viewers in the chat who want to see how shiny your head is, how shiny your head is?
Absolutely not.
It's for the people, Capo. Capo, it's for the people. They want to know.
I'm so sorry.
I think. Oh my god.
He doesn't want to blind us. He's just being sweet. He's like the dude in the SpongeBob movie. You guys know what
I
I'm
haven't
talking
seen this
about?
The
SpongeBob.
the
No, I haven't
king,
seen this
the
SpongeBob.
Yeah,
mermaid
the
king.
king, yeah.
Mhm.
Kappa.
Thanks,
I love
thanks,
you, my
Nick.
man.
Wait, Plato, you have to watch this video then.
Okay, bet. But yeah, do you guys have any more viewer questions? Because if not, that is the end of episode 6. If you have any last minute viewers questions, oh wait, Jordan says, I was asking because I was wondering if you all really use terrible stuff to see if you could still clear, like if you guys did challenge runs or something occasionally. Jordan, there was one day where I trolled really hard and I ran Bone Shrapnel and what it was Golem's Death on my Technomancer in Chemplant, and we literally golded it by a second. This is the worst experience of my life.
I've seen 3 people wear Cannonball and get gold on Eye of the Storm.
You're welcome, Pixel.
So
That's insane. Yeah. Hey,
yeah,
maybe
no,
we
I
could do
mean-
some challenge runs, to spice it up from time to time. Maybe we'll.
Yeah,
do
maybe.
stream
When I
if we really wanna
started
do
playing the game, all I was doing was challenge runs. Let's be real.
that. True.
yeah, fact.
If you guys don't know though, like all you guys see is Big Daddy playing what like Trickster, literally. I mean, sorry, just Techno now, right? But like this man back in the day, played like support Techno, played AP everything, and just had all these like just heavy off meta builds that was just really super fun, enjoyable. Like he would join in on one of the runs and just fucking go ham, and it was really exciting to see. So yeah, Big Daddy was a very, very connoisseur of the challenge runs to himself. But yeah, Jordan, not a bad idea. I'll see. Like, I mean, challenge runs have to be fun in their own right? It can't be like really, really bad to watch, like asking a Technomancer to run a shotgun or something like that. Just fucking be interesting, but wouldn't be too.
That would be exciting to see. Not to try, but to see. I will tell you this though. We have a future to look forward to. So.
Oh yeah, Capo. Yeah, before I ended, please.
Well,
I
yeah,
totally forgot about this. We're not ending it. Capo has something to say.
No, Capo doesn't have anything to say. I'm just saying we do
But
have.
Capo, you have something to say. It's public information, so you can just say it. If people miss
We
out
have
on
a
it.
future. We have a future, and I know a lot of people have sat here and it's like, this and that, and it's still open for interpretation, right? But just know that it will be sooner than what you all may think, and it's going to be bigger than what everyone thinks. And when that does happen, or that drops, I think hopefully we'll be excited, and NickTew will come back, and he won't give us a 2-hour stream. Maybe he'll give us a solid 10.
Gotta get those channel points. For
Exactly.
nothing.
But that does leave it for interpretation, right? Because you could say, or we all can say, what's sooner. I was thinking maybe content at the end of December. Some of you in the chat could have been thinking content February, March, right? So that could be left for open interpretation, and so can bigger, right? What does bigger mean? So hopefully that gives us some hype, and we're excited,
hyped.
and then when that time comes,
I'm hell hyped.
we'll all get back, and people will start running into the channels like, what are you doing? How are you doing it? What mod is that? And stuff like that. So I think that was some good information that we received, and it reassures us that the game is not just totally dead, and eventually it'll come back. You know what I mean? It's
So,
just on a
Kake-
hiatus.
Oh, what he
So-
said. What he said. I'll repeat for the people in the back that didn't hear. What he said is something bigger will come, and it'll be sooner than when we expect. Right? Content.
They're talking about new
New
content.
content
Most likely a
will come.
DLC.
And will be bigger and will come sooner than we expect. Basically, is what we heard. Also, it's not confirmed or anything. It's more like a bird told us this, but yeah.
Yeah. So I would say just go off to other endeavors for now, and then when that time comes, hey, it's right there for you.
You know, I'm also very hopeful for the future of this game, even though, you know, the overall mood, let's say, of the community
Yeah.
is kind of negative. I'm personally, you know, hopeful for the future, and I think it'll be brighter than we think.
Yeah, and I think the biggest thing that we can take out of this dev news today, real quick, is just to point out that they are actually definitely looking at something that Big Daddy has been protesting and screaming and shouting from the mountaintops about making more bills viable. Working on, at least they're taking a look at that, right? I know we had a discussion on it, and I think that's a good thing, because now everyone else that wants to test other things or wants to run other things, like, hey, possibly those things are going to get the buffs and it's going to give you enough damage or whatever the case may be for you to complete a CT 15 or any expedition that you're at right now. And I think that's good. Making hybrid builds viable, making whatever survival build viable. It's going to take a lot of work though, because I truly think that they're definitely going to have to touch on the skill trees, but we'll see. We'll see what happens.
Yeah, I'm excited for the future of Outriders. I mean, I was gonna play this game regardless, new content or not, just because I'm very excited, or like not else content. Just like I didn't care when it was coming personally. I just to know that it was coming was enough to keep me, because I enjoyed the gameplay loop a lot. But to know that maybe sooner rather than later it's gonna be bigger than what we had in mind is something really to get hyped and look forward to.
Also, I just wanted to add real quick, so to touch on something that Capo said, which is a little quote here from the dev news. So, addressing those aspects of the above mod meta, which we deem to be unhealthy for the development of fun and varied builds in Outriders. Making change in the future aimed at disrupting the meta, right? More fun options and alternative for players. So they're literally saying what Capo said, basically. And I'm very happy about that. That's why I was speaking about earlier with Capo, which is, they're addressing the fact that the balancing in general in the entire game is problematic, and I agree completely.
Yeah, I mean, a great way to end off a really a really good podcast. Honestly, today was a good one. Want to thank everybody for tuning in. Appreciate you all being here. Supporting, watching these weekly. It'll be uploaded on YouTube, of course. And if anybody wants to shout out their socials, feel free. Big Daddy, you want to shout your socials out? We'll start with you.
Sure. You can come watch me on twitch.tv/bigdaddyshyt. That's it.
Capo, you're next. Come on, shout your socials. Let your name be
Oh
known.
my god, man. You can check me out twitch.tv/Capo167. Check out the YouTube channel Capo167, or you can also check me out on Twitter at Capo1671. Show some love.
My man Maffeine.
So you can just check me out on twitch.tv/Maffeine, and don't forget September started today, by the way.
And also Maffeine won't say it, but what is it? What's your advanced gamer fuel link? What was it?
Advanced GG code Maffeine. Yeah.
Advanced GG code Maffeine. If you guys like the gamer fuel, you can save 10% off. I use it, regularly. Actually, I should start drinking more advanced GG on stream. I just don't. It's always in my hydro flask. Nick, you want to shout your socials out, my man?
Hey, what's up, guys? NickTew here. Please follow me on youtube.com/NickTew. Thank you for watching.
Great.
That was the best.
Perfect.
That was the best. That's the best way to end it. Bye.
See you guys.